This is Part 2 Episode 129. Every higher-ranked knight present viewed Long Houchen in a new light. In addition to their curiosity, he gained their respect. Although they didn't know how Long Houchen destroyed that demon god pillar, how could this be done by chance? The old man from before stood up, and beat his chest with his right fist. I, auxiliary head of the Knight Temple, Holy Knight Hejun, apologize for questioning this decision. You spread the knight's glory, and deserve the title of Saint Knight Head. Long Houchen returned the politeness with haste, for the knight's glory. Almost all the other knights present repeated Long Houchen's sentence, for the knight's glory. In terms of a contribution made for the Temple Alliance, the mere accomplishment of being the first person to ever destroy a demon god pillar was enough to make his honor and glory unquestionable in their eyes. Hejun nodded to Long Houchen before turning to look at Long Qianying, head. Since 12th Golden Knight made such a great contribution, how about getting rid of the appellation of provisional, and add the title of auxiliary temple head? What is a holy knight? That's a knight of the 9th step, that has just never obtained the approval from a divine throne. And this holy knight Hejun was an auxiliary temple head of the Temple Alliance as well. Long Qianying shook his head, no need. His contribution for the alliance won't be forgotten, and our Knight Temple will keep it in mind. We will speak of his future post after he gains approval from a divine throne. He is currently still too young, and giving him too high a post would be inappropriate. Long Qianying's declaration once again shocked the entirety of the officers present. What does, after he gains approval from a divine throne, mean? It means that the master of the divine throne of order and law, divine knight of control and constraints Long Qianying, has already determined that this 12th Golden Knight will surely obtain a divine throne in the future, becoming the 4th divine knight of the Knight Temple. This isn't merely thoughtless words. Even someone with Long Qianying's status wouldn't speak such words lightly, without an absolute confidence. That's not even saying anything about the following part, too young. How old could he be? What did he mean by too young? Just how young is that? Long Houchen didn't expect his grandfather to introduce him this way. Without exposing his identity, this raised him instantly to the top of the Knight Temple. After a short time of confusion, Long Houchen understood his grandfather's intention. Long Qianying did it for very simple reason, to build up his influence and prepare his future. To both Long Qianying and Yang Haohan, in the future, he will be bound to take up the duty of the head of the Knight Temple. But right now Long Houchen certainly didn't have an important position or influence in the Knight Temple. As it stood, even if he became a divine knight in the future, his approval within the Knight Temple would hardly be assured. The two divine knights were aiming at building his notoriety within the Knight Temple in order to have him gain the approval of more of these high-ranked knights. Having him take the title of Provisionary Saint Knight Head was also for this, for his future approbation and influence. Hejun wrinkled his brows, asking intuitively, Head, may I ask how old 12th Golden Knight is? Could he be even younger than Xingyu was back then? Long Qianying replied after a short time of silence, the day he becomes a divine knight, everyone will be aware of this truth. At the moment, it has to be kept secret. That applies to everything I just revealed. All right, now it is time to start the meeting. From this moment onwards, Long Houchen formally became the provisional Saint Knight Head. This meant that he gained a role to play among the higher-ups of the Knight Temple. Long Qianying designated a vacant seat for Long Houchen. This time, Long Houchen couldn't avoid that, and could only take up the seat. As if it was a matter of course, Han Yu followed him to his seat, instead of remaining behind Long Qianying. In fact, he was first and foremost Long Houchen's retainer. From this, everyone became even more curious regarding Long Houchen's identity. Some even started to wonder whether this person could really be the Saint Knight Head Han Qian. Otherwise, why would Han Qian's grandson, a temple knight of the 7th step, follow him, instead of standing behind Long Qianying, who just announced his qualifications to attend this meeting? The highest military council in the dragon-resisting mountain pass started, and the high-ranking officers present had their duties clearly divided, as they summarized the statistics regarding the battlefield. This included the casualties on their own side, the estimations of the enemy's casualties, and a summary of the current forces at the enemy's disposal. For now, Long Houchen only acted as a listener, but he understood well why his grandfather brought him here, and therefore listened with great seriousness. Given his astonishing ability to remember, he only need to put forth a little attention to record all these statistics in his mind. In the previous battle, the Knight Temple's casualties weren't important. A lot were wounded, but there weren't many heavily wounded or deceased. This was related to the tactics used by the Knight Temple, because this was a war of attrition. Starting from the initial stages of the war, the Knight Temple attached a great importance to healing their own troops. The wounded soldiers would immediately be replaced and get treated, to avoid unnecessary death. After all, although the Knight Temple's military strength couldn't compare with the demons, the dragon-resisting natural fortress didn't need a lot of defenders. Cycling their troops of less than 20,000 men in order to minimize casualties was Long Qianying's most basic strategy, and the fact that the Knight Temple managed to persist for so long was closely related to this. Of course, such a strategy had its perks, but also its downsides. It was very detrimental to the soldiers' morale, and would hardly enable them to deal a fatal strike to the enemies, keeping them in a passive situation as defenders. After listening to the summarized statistics, Long Qianying declared, based on our investigations, the demon food has already reached its bottom line. In today's battle, they were planning on weakening our forces, as well as making some food from their own side. But they didn't expect this surprising turn of events, resulting in their retreat without obtaining any supply of food. Therefore, I estimate that after the demon side adjusts, they will very rapidly come for the next attack. So everyone has to stay on high alert to keep doing a good job in defending. This last battle was, for the Knight Temple, not only a victory, but a call to the Knights' willpower. They were originally unable to hold back, but hearing about Long Qianying's change of stance, they naturally felt great excitement. The auxiliary head He Jun reacted first. Head, I approve a combination of offense and defense, but shouldn't we also consider this at length, and avoid taking big risks? As a matter of fact, the defense of the dragon-resisting mountain pass is the most important to us. Although the passive plans previously formulated by Long Qianying didn't gain every knight's approval, who would dare oppose him? Indeed, He Jun was his greatest supporter. The actual fact that they managed to last for a year and a half proved that Long Qianying's strategy was correct. Although restraining the soldiers left them sullen, the number of casualties in the Knight Temple never left the safe range, while the demon casualties kept increasing continuously. In particular, since they cut their supply of food this way, this forced the enemy to use their own corpses as food, increasing the damage even further. The nasty environment also kept weakening them with greater and greater efficiency. Long Qianying nodded. I have an idea. Let us discuss it together. At the current stage, as long as Saminaga does not mobilize the 3 demon emperor legions, our defense won't have any issue. Even if he does, we can go all out, which will very possibly result in mutual destruction. As you said, comrade, even if we attack the enemy, we will still have to put the greatest priority on defending the dragon-resisting mountain pass. At the same time, we have to do our best to minimize our losses. Therefore, I suggest that we opt for a blitzkrieg strategy. Using the best elite knights to raid the enemy forces, retreating rapidly after each attack, we will efficiently kill the enemy, while ensuring our survival even further. This would aim at restricting the demons, while weakening their forces. He Jun nodded. I agree with your proposal. Transferring large troops to confront the demons head-on is impossible, as it would be akin to abandoning our advantage. But having small elite forces raid the demons could be very effective. Long Qianying declared, everyone can give their own view. If you have a good idea, feel free to share it, so that we can discuss it. What followed wasn't an exchange of ideas, but an upsurge of requests for participation. Almost every one of the high-ranking officers present expressed their wish to lead the elites to raid the demons, inflicting heavy damage to the enemy. The atmosphere in the whole room became extremely enthusiastic all of a sudden. The strategies and tactics were improved gradually, but the real contributors were very few. Among those were Long Haochen and Han Yu. At night, the whizzing north wind could occasionally be heard whimpering. In the demon camps, aside from the area around the 8 brightly lit demon god pillars, everything appeared calm and monotonous. In such a cold weather, no matter how domineering the demon commanders were, the demon troops would still need to rest in their own camps. Their patrols were very few, since after all, so far they had always been the ones on the offensive. The Knight Temple was like a turtle withdrawn in its shell, never coming out of their forts, and letting out an impression of inertia. The freezing cold area around the dragon-resisting mountain pass reached 40 C at night time. This bitter cold greatly affected both demons and humans. For the sake of taking care of this northern battlefield, the demons transferred almost all the thick tents they could hear, so that as many of their troops could rest inside as possible. At first, it was really quite hard. Over 1 million elite troops having gathered here, having all of them sleep in good conditions was not easy given their level of culture. But as the holy war went on, the casualties also increased continuously, and the demons also had to replace their troops. And now, their army could finally just barely be accommodated in their camps. In each 20 square meters tent resided at least 10 demons. That is, with the exception of the demonic bear, who were grouped by 4 or 5. This way they were stuck in physical contact distance with each other, but at least the benefit was that this enabled them to warm up each other. These unsophisticated camps extended over the length of 5 kilometers, with each tent inseparably close to each other, attempting to resist the terrible cold. The demon god of death Saminaga was worthy of being called one of the demon's 5 pillars. He didn't have the advanced demons reside in the camps, but outside, letting only the rather low-level demons inside. Among them were the 3 demon emperor legions, stationed in 3 different directions from the camps. This was obviously not only because of the advanced level demons' higher resistance to cold, but more importantly, if humans really launched an attack on the demon camps, the stronger ones guarding outside would have an easier time to resist. These arrangements planned by Saminaga received an unanimous support. The demonic bear Sahaba had recently returned to the camps with 3 comrades. The movements of the 4 demonic bears were identical, and all 4 felt incredibly crowded in the narrow tents, and had their hands covering their stomachs, feeling extremely hungry. According to their massive builds and astonishing defensive power, the imposing demonic bears' need for food was also frightening. But they haven't eaten to their fill for a few days already. The stored corpses were already nearly all used up as food, and today, they had to share a berserk demon's leg as their only food. To them, this was far from enough. But because food was really insufficient, they had no other way. With 8 great demon gods standing on guard, who would dare make a fuss? Wouldn't that be close to suicide? So at sunset, they hurried back to the camps to rest. Sahaba's group was still well off. They belonged to the 4th Demon Emperor Legion, and had an extremely privileged treatment within the demon army. The lower-ranked demons had mostly not eaten for 1 or 2 days. Before the last battle, the demon army should have had sufficient food, but who expected Saminaga to have been left with no choice but to retreat. Very few corpses could be brought back, which was totally insufficient to replenish their food supply. And who knew when food supplies would arrive from the rear? The demon high-ranking officer all knew that at this rate, their army would die of hunger, but what could they do about an order personally issued by the demon god emperor? From the beginning of the war, 1.5 years had passed. The demon armies lost at least 1/3 of their troops since then, several million demons having already died. Although the damage inflicted to the humans' 6 great temple was also considerable, the demons deceased were at least 5 times higher than the humans. And this difference only kept increasing. The fact that the demon god emperor's devil dragon clan, the moon clan, and the star clan still had yet to appear in the battlefield became the greatest issue. Many demons, including even demon gods, didn't understand the reason for this. In their point of view, the mere appearance of the demon god emperor in the battlefield was sufficient to guarantee the destruction of any human fort. How could they know that the demon god emperor never had the intention to wipe out humanity, and only wanted to greatly reduce the forces they had accumulated for several thousand years? The 4 demonic bears were whispering together, full of hunger and devoid of energy. Moreover, given the total cold outside, even if they were able to bear the temperature, the cold would exhaust all their remaining energy, only causing them to be more hungry. Sahaba let out a low cry, so hungry. If this keeps up, I will have to kill some of them to fill my stomach. This didn't refer to the forces of the dragon-resisting mountain, as he had no intention to commit such a suicidal act, but their own side's forces. Another demonic bear's eyes lit up from hearing Sahaba's words. How about berserk demons? Their meat is juicy. Bring 2 of them here, it should be enough to fill us. At this rate, if we don't die from freezing, it will be from hunger. I don't want to become food for the other demons. Although demons would use corpses as food, they were very careful in one aspect. That was, a demon would avoid eating corpses of his own kin, which was only a last resort. A few demonic bears gained an interest. The strength of the berserk demons was naturally far below theirs, and their 2 races were incomparable. The demonic bear demon god Veil 4 was present, but the berserk demons didn't even have a demon god. Even if they were found out, these demonic bears from the Demon Emperor Legion wouldn't suffer any losses. This has always been a world where the strong prey upon the weak. Outside the tents, the bitingly cold wind could be heard whimpering. The tents were quite sturdy, although in practice they could at most resist the wind. To really withstand the cold, one could only rely on his own body's temperature, and the thickness of his own skin. Sahaba's eyes glinted with a flash of evil intent. Let's go. We cannot let ourselves starve to death like that. We are noble demonic bears, there's nothing for us to worry about eating 2 berserk demons. Being able to use their worthless lives to help our noble lives go on is nothing but an honor for them. Hearing his last words, the other 3, mad with hunger, couldn't show any more restraint, and noiselessly came out from their tent. As soon as they came out, they couldn't help but shake from the cold. The cold wind cut through their fur, and although this was not enough to directly inflict them wounds, this was sufficient to almost freeze below the surface of their hair, and suffuse their skin with great cold. Go. Sahaba ordered, leading the other 3 in the direction of the berserk demons' camps. Because they belonged to a demon emperor legion, their tents were among the outermost. Demonic bears were originally the toughest and most resistant to cold, so to go trouble some berserk demons, they had to head deeper inside the camp. Right at this time, Sahaba suddenly seemed to have sensed something. Do you smelling something as well? This smell seems unusual. Sahaba halted his footsteps, looking suspiciously all around him. Under the biting cold wind, outside of the camp was pitch black, and nothing of the surroundings was visible. One could only vaguely see some light at the distant dragon-resisting mountain. But because of the excessive distance, the light from the dragon-resisting mountain pass seemed to be out of range from here. Another demonic bear replied, Sahaba, you must be really hungry. Could you be sensing the smell of barbecue? Ah, I am so hungry for barbecue. Hearing this, the whole bunch of demonic bears, including Sahaba, couldn't help but take a gulp of saliva. Right? What could beat a delicious barbecue? Just when Sahaba believed he had made a mistake due to his excessive hunger, a figure touched his back without a sound. This figure was completely wrapped in a large cloak, as if melting into the darkness. And around his body appeared some clear twisting light, causing his body's aura to vanish inside. A golden light flashed and was sensed by Sahaba's group of 4 at the same time as an ice-cold heat attacked them. The next instant, the 4 of them turned into corpses without any knowledge, as they simply fell to the ground. On each of their 4 skulls appeared a little blooded hole, piercing through their brain without leaving the slightest opportunity to even make a sound or launch an attack. But the toughest part of a demonic bear is his skull. What monstrous strength would be needed to accomplish this? There was no need at all to worry about the reeking smell of blood being diffused. In such a freezing cold, the 4 corpses didn't even have blood spread out, and directly turned into ice. That black figure lightly waved his hand, and another cloaked figure silently came into view, preparing to act under the lead of the former black-clad man. The black figure slowly removed its cloak, revealing an aged face. This was the auxiliary temple head Hejun currently. That black cloak concealed an armor glinting with an orange color, without a helmet on his face. A total of 50 people had come along with him. All had fluctuations around them. These fluctuations were similar to Long Houchen's barrier of mental energy, enabling them to conceal their presence, and were given off by a special piece of equipment. Mental attribute category. In the whole 6 great temples, the Night Temple was second only to the Mage Temple in their possessions of spiritual tools, having quite a few of them. These powerhouses from the Night Temple all had a necklace of spiritual protection. In a tent among the demon armies. Currently, Saminaga the demon god of death was still awake, and was gathered with the other demon gods. Among the 8 of them 7 came. Only the berserk demon god Arnan was absent. Actually, Arnan had vanished at the beginning of the Holy War. Only his demon god pillar was left here, by order of the demon god emperor. Against Arnan, even the status of the demon god of death Saminaga was useless. Arnan's individual strength was enough to compete with the top 5 demon gods, and was at least not below Saminaga and Marbas. But he didn't have his own clan, and only single-mindedly sought after strength. Who would try to catch such a solitary demon god? The only things he may listen to are the orders of the demon god emperor, but the other demons are at most practice targets in his eyes. The reason why this Arnan is called berserk, a demon god, is actually simple. In times of battle, no matter whether his opponent is a demon or a human, every time he would fight until death, continuing until a victor comes out. Therefore, despite being a demon god as well, Saminaga was unwilling to compare notes with him. Even demon gods thought Arnan to be a madman, and that it was actually better when he is absent. Using Arnan's own words, his target isn't in the dragon-resisting mountain. Saminaga sat on the seat of commander. Nearby sat the demonic bear demon god Vale. The other 5 were quite below them in ranking, and naturally had to sit in lower seats, watching Saminaga attentively. The demon god of death was in quite a bad mood. A grey aura was faintly visible on his body, and his eyes were narrowed, as if pondering over something. He had been remaining silent for quite a long time already. Fourth brother. Let's attack tomorrow. If we don't, the brothers under my command are going to cause trouble. There has been a shortage of food for a few days already. It won't do if things keep going this way. The one speaking was Vale 4. Under his command were the demonic bears, ranked among the top of the demons in terms of strength. He was visibly speaking to Saminaga as equal. Saminaga nodded. I didn't expect such an accident to happen today. The humans' morale rose to its peak, hence to keep fighting would have been unfavorable to us, so we could only withdraw. But these humans are really despicable, they actually snatched our kin's corpses. We cannot avoid a battle tomorrow. The time has come to teach them a good lesson. Vale 4 gave out a snort. I really don't understand why His Highness wants us to make it a prolonged war. If the 3 demon emperor legions were dispatched, maybe we would have broken through their ranks a long time ago. Would there then even be a reason for us to have such a deficit of food? Humans surely have a large amount of food in storage. Saminaga had a strict look on his face, coldly glancing at Vale 4. If you are so confident, go tell these words to His Highness. Vale 4 immediately became speechless, shooting a fierce gaze at the 5 demon gods below. Treat it like I didn't say anything just now, understood? What would these 5 dare say? Immediately nodding, they expressed their agreement. Saminaga continued seriously, enough. We have to discuss tomorrow's operation now. As battles are going on, we are suffering more and more damage. At this rate, there will come a day that we will be the final loser. His Highness' order was for us to keep using up the humans' strength. For this purpose, we must show them our overwhelming superiority tomorrow. Time has come to improve the food menu for our army. It won't do to keep making them eat their own kin. This time, we must destroy the Night Temple, or at least make them pay a very big price. Vale 4 was overjoyed. Fourth brother, are you saying that we should mobilize the Demon Emperor legions? Saminaga nodded. Just transfer 2 Demon Emperor legions. We cannot mobilize all of them. Last time, when the 2nd Demon Emperor Legion mysteriously suffered some great damage, His Highness was furious and even punished us. The Demon Emperor Legions are our foundation. We have to do our best to prevent them from sustaining damage. The demonic bear Vale 4 responded. I will be coming as well tomorrow. I really want to face off against Long Qianying. Let's see if his divine throne of order and law can match my power. I will be leaving the other divine knight to you. Saminaga shook his head. No, we cannot intervene. Once we participate in the battle will surely turn into an irreversible state. It will develop into our final victory, which His Highness forbid us. Furthermore, don't forget that almost the entirety of our forces are gathered here. Can you afford such a loss? Outside of these 3 unshakable ones, the demonic bear demon god Vale 4 had only 2 possible targets to go up in rank. These 2 were the demon god of death Saminaga, and the hell demon god Marbas. Don't be fooled by the scene of Vale 4 complying to Saminaga's words. In fact, Saminaga understood very clearly that this guy could at any time become a twin-edged blade aiming at his back. The reason he didn't appear in the battlefield was also related to the pressure coming from the demonic bear, who was waiting for Saminaga to make a mistake. Therefore, Saminaga was on high guard when dealing with Vale 4. The rankings of the 72 demon gods isn't unmovable. As long as one's strength suffices, a challenge can be issued at any time. But of course, these challenges won't use the demon god pillars. The higher a demon god's ranking is, the more stable his position will be, and the lower the odds for him to be challenged. At least, the top 10 demon gods have been the same for hundreds of years already. As Saminaga was looking at Visago, secretly cursing at him, the 7 demon gods felt a perturbation, and all their eyes gathered in the same direction. Surprise attack. Visago had a shocked look. That's because in the previous instant, he had clearly perceived a massive and intense burst of light element from the side of the demon camp. The 7 demon gods rushed out from the command tent, and looked at the direction where light element could be sensed. With just a look, dozens of glowing lights were seen rising to the sky, glistening in the night sky. Immediately, massive balls of light fell in the midst of the demon camp. Each of these balls of light reached 1 meter in diameter, and were heading down toward the same direction. After these dozens of balls of light flew out, several dozen golden figures soared up, shooting back to the direction of the dragon-resisting mountain pass, no good. Saminaga shouted loudly, dashing madly. Given his tyrannical cultivation, a mere instant sufficed for him to cross the whole camp. But when they came out, those balls of light were already descending. Even if Saminaga was even faster to react, he had to go through the process of detection, coming out, and making a decision. And this short time was enough for the knights to ambush the demon camp. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.